No Box Dance presents Dance Behind the Screen, process production, and social media. Don't forget, say no to the box. Dile no a la caja. 고정관념이란 상자에서 벗어나세요.
Welcome back to Dance Behind the Screen podcast. This is your host, Martheya. In season 6, our theme is dance and technology. Our goal this season is to talk about how dance can coexist in a world of screens, social media, and interactive and immersive environments. Our guest, Felicella, is a Dallas-based interdisciplinary artist with a focus in performance, new media, photography, and installation. She also spends much of her time dedicated to the advancement of artists and the cultural community right here in North Texas. Welcome to our show, Erica.
It's an honor to be here. I'm real excited to talk with y'all today.
Me too. So to start us off, I was thinking maybe you can briefly introduce yourself and tell us a little bit about the art that you're interested in making.
I have been an art nerd in North Texas for over 2 decades. I practice multiple aspects of my work is focused on well-being, and I have been involved in different capacities of the arts from nuts to bolts is the way I like to describe it. And I am also owner of 2 dogs, my little babies, and I'm originally from the East Coast. At some point, I will claim Texas as my 100% home, but I still like to raise the roof to New England.
I love it, Erica. You, as you mentioned, you wear many different hats, from curator, producer, to a working artist. And I'm curious if you could talk about like where you started and then how you got to where you are right now.
So my practice was really untraditional. It happened to me. I look back at the arts as a small child. I recently realized I was making earthworks at 9. But the official start, somebody asked me if I would help them curate an exhibition. And the true story is I said yes, and then I had to go home and look up curator. That was in my really early 20s, and that's where it all began. And the next thing I knew, I got a call to work with a commercial photographer, and I just said yes. I've always been a person that just goes for it. I have a philosophy. If you can't answer the question today, know it for tomorrow. Yeah, my growth in this organization has been very organic. And I have a past studio mate that always said, just say yes and then go around the corner and freak out. That's been the secret sauce in my practice as a professional. And I've had a lot of great mentors over the years with the community, specifically in the nonprofit sector over the years that have been willing to share their knowledge base with me to help me expand and grow.
I want to really dig into technology, but before we do, I think it's important to talk about mentorship. You speak about having mentors that have helped you along your path. Can you talk a little bit about maybe how those relationships formed, or for our listeners who might be looking for mentors or want to mentor other people in the arts community? Can you share maybe some insight or advice on how to form those important relationships?
Absolutely. The first thing that I recommend and that I've done is show up. That's the first step. Look at what you want to learn, what you want to do. That's what I did. And I started recognizing the people that were consistently in the room. And don't be afraid to ask. That's if I wanted advice, I just walked up. People either had time or they didn't. I'm just very grateful. A lot of people said yes. And everything from specifically the stuff that I wanted to learn is being a practicing artist and also being on the background of arts administration and nonprofit and producer and the other side of being an artist. Those were my main focuses as far as mentors. But I also have mentees, and I believe share the knowledge, share the wealth. And I take on assistance when I can. I try to give public talks when I can. I try to be the person that shows up on both sides so that I hope somebody will come up to me if they have questions. So it's a kind of a circle.
I think that's lovely and just an important reminder for all of us to keep our pathways of communication open for both ways. I wanted to really dive into technology. And I'm wondering, had the shifts in social media affected your approach to art making?
Absolutely. How could it not, right? The first iPhone came out in 2007. And since then, I'm not knocking all the other. I just happen to be an Apple girl. Since 2007, we have been carrying computers in our pockets. So technology from there has just changed the way we live. It's unavoidable, and it has become a tool that's in everything we do. So specifically from an art making standpoint for myself, you use it as a platform. We use it to get the word out. We can reach wider audiences. I can talk to people anywhere in the world, again, to look for mentors and other artists that are doing the same practice that I do. It's just a wider audience of people you can talk to. And now I can make my work also focused in film. And I can use other technology. I can use projection in my work. I can use LEDs in my work. I can use different algorithms and stuff like that. When I say, I mean collaboration, because there are a lot of people that are skilled out there that I may not know the technology, but there's a lot of people working in these fields now that apply to the arts. And I should say that I don't make work in a silo or a vacuum. I'm very much a collaboration. I work with a collaborative team in everything that I do, and technology experts have been part of it for a while. And in regards to people making art in general, new media is an actual direction and an art form that has grown. And we're starting to see it in galleries and museums. It's showing everywhere now. So it's changed the world.
From the lens, or I guess the hat of a curator, how do you negotiate or have conversations around people's works that might be showing excerpts and such on social media for promotion, but then also wanting to make sure that you have these live audiences coming to the galleries, coming to the installations and things like that? How are you thinking about that, especially when it comes to making sure you're not giving away all of the art that you're going to see online? Especially, this isn't necessarily like dance focused, but some of the art that's made for screens already.
Just like a movie has a trailer, I have teasers, and so do a lot of artists. We do shortcuts, and by that, like literally cuts of the film or the technology that's being used. A lot of this, what's behind the scenes, has always been really cool. So you get a chance to see the art on the making that we can now use film to show, and then still images, so that it's like we want to give you the appetizer in a screen consumption so that it creates interest and intrigue. And it's a fantastic way, because it's like if you used to use approaches that was just with a still photograph, you can now give a short snip, whether it be 30 seconds or up to 3 minutes. The editing, you choose exactly what you want people to storyline wise to see. It's an excellent tool.
Have you ever had audiences be disappointed when you see a trailer for a movie? Sometimes you think it's going to be this certain thing, and then people go and they see it in theaters or watch it at home now, and people are disappointed. Like, that's nothing at all like the trailer offered. And I feel as an audience member have experienced that now, because you can have these companies who are really skilled at creating such captivating videos for online. And then you go and you see the work, and it feels like this is nothing like what you were showing before. What are your thoughts on that?
Everybody creates a dud every once in a while, but it's the responsibility of the artist. And I'm not saying that we're better than the companies that make movie trailers, but for me personally, I try to create and begin the bond of an emotional connection. And whether I attach some written description to it. But for me, I just want to pull at the heartstring just a little bit. I've found that it's very effective. But yeah, sometimes people are just disappointed. Sometimes people are expecting something on a grand scale, and they realize in working with Aurora, it's like people are still sometimes expecting something on the entire building, and they haven't learned that we're year round at this point and do smaller programming. It's hard to make that translation. So just training your audience. So it takes time, and people will grow to learn who you are. And sometimes you just have to be willing to accept the disappointment at times. Just don't do it so often that people stop coming altogether. Don't do a whoops.
Don't forget to say no to the box.
Do you have maybe 3 or 4 key components that you make sure all of your trailers have that might be useful for myself and for our listeners when we're thinking about, you said, tugging at the heartstrings of the audience to really form that relationship before they enter the performance space?
Sure, I do. And something that I try to do is never reveal the end. For my process, I traditionally work in the development of the back end to the beginning so that I know what I don't want to show and what is the response I would like to elicit is something I look at. And then it's like, how do I open that? What's the first action for the performance? And also performance is just difficult in general because it's temporal live. It's meant to be experienced in while you're physically in attendance. So for me, I'll use components and elements to let people see if I'm laying on a bed of rocks, like I'm showing myself holding rocks. It's like I'm creating this list of materials sometimes is what I use and leave what is she going to do with that kind of experience. And then if it's a film that I've already made, the teaser may literally have nothing to do with the whole piece. I just want to show that if it's about emotional weight, then I'll find something again, like if I've been working with rocks a lot and nature a lot. I just want to show that the weight and the heaviness of the beginning of a story and then begin to lead people into, again, the intrigue, but never reveal the end. Absolutely don't let people know where the full experience is, because in my work, the full experience is up to the viewer. So it's my job to, I don't know if I'm making any sense. But yeah, it's the beginning or sometimes subjects and objects. When working as a producer, you work with the artist and get what the artist likes as their favorite clip as well, because we're making stuff that's very short-lived. The community these days, by community and the world as a whole, consumes content very quickly. It's things that are easy to connect with. Colors, fast movement. It's like all those things. What's the catch? What's the grab? Yeah.
Thank you for sharing. I think my biggest takeaway from that is the element of surprise. And that's something, I don't know if I've given it away in like trailers for our work. I know with our film festival, that can be challenging too, because we're taking excerpts of so many of other people's works and other films. So we could be giving away what might be the like pinnacle moment for them, but not necessarily for us. So that's really interesting. And I appreciate you sharing. You mentioned Aurora. I want to talk a little bit more about Dallas Aurora. They create an open space for thousands to experience through the use of technology as a tool for tomorrow's creatives. And for those who might not be familiar, could you tell us what is Dallas Aurora? And maybe you can talk a little bit about your role as executive producer.
So Aurora is multifaceted. It's like something I already gave like a pretty good description of kind of the basis of what Aurora is, but we're programming for the community. So we're bringing technology to your doorstep in our smaller programming. Accessibility is something that the organization is really focused on, whether that be a program for 5 or all the way up to 50,000. We want to make sure that we're giving complex and what some people would call high art experiences, but digestible for the community. And by bringing that, we literally have brought the art down in some aspects, like directly to your feet for a program called Video Art Night. We've created art collection for the masses in the summertime through a fun game, scavenger type program. And then, of course, we have the biennial, which is what the organization is most known for. And that's a chance for people to consume digital art in a manner of which they have never seen it. And it's free. That's another big thing that we believe in as far as access, as no gates, no walls, come as you are and just enjoy and experience it. It's for everyone.
Erica, can you talk about what attracts you to digital arts and perhaps why you think it's important to bring to the community?
So digital art, I think, is always one step ahead of where we are as a society. They can lead the conversation of tomorrow. It is a wonderful tool that I see to have visual dialogue for the story of the world. Artists are storytellers, and technology is something that people are becoming more and more comfortable with in a way that the way I describe it is painting is something we're used to be seeing more in the past. Photography is something, and we've just jumped off the wall and have made it a full living experience. And the artists of today and tomorrow are finding ways to wrap that around our brains as we know it.
Create, discuss, and advocate for art. No box dance.
What are you seeing are the trends right now with art and technology in 2024? And then what are your thoughts on where are we going tomorrow? What's the future look like?
So it's unavoidable. AI is part of our future today, tomorrow, and forever. So I've talked to a lot of artists about using AI as an influence in their work. So that's a dialogue we're going to be having for years. That's about the good and the evil. It's how to use it. It's the new frontier at the moment that's become accessible to almost all artists that know how to tap into it. And the rest of the future, I think LEDs are playing a huge part in that. The screens are what we used to need the dark for is become a 24-hour experience. I'd like to see where that's going to go and where that's going to grow. We're already seeing ways where it's being used in the round. It's awesome to see. And I'm waiting for it to become more approachable and easier to achieve for the smaller community and by individual artists that, yeah, but I wouldn't have to say the largest influence that we're going to see is AI and generative work.
Yeah, and it's so exciting. In the last work that I created with Joel Olivas, a part of Mixed Emotus, we actually used AI we took video clips of the dancers and we inputted it. I don't know. He could speak more to it than I could. He's one of those amazing people working in the technology space that knows a lot more than I do. But it's really fascinating. He dropped some of these videos in, and then we were able to create these different worlds of almost like these animated worlds that could change. And it was really exciting. I've been a user of AI for a while, more from the administrative side of things, helping with editing and things like that. But it's really exciting to see the possibilities for art making. And I know a conversation that we're having with some of the other guests too is the influence in academic circles and how it's impacting people's writing. And I guess I'm curious, do you already have thoughts or concerns for how individual artists and organizations can continue to negotiate like the positive influence of AI, and then also some of the challenges that have to do with like individual thought or like copyright ideas. This is a conversation we've had in regards to social media before on this podcast, but not as it relates to AI.
Yeah, ooh, that's a loaded question.
Right.
AI as a tool, and I'm going to come from more of a writing, administrative first, and as an artist, we come to the same thing. I treat it like it's a book, but it's a book that learns and talks. You don't want to repeat the story the same way. So basically that is, don't copy and paste. People are starting to realize that, hey, that's not the way this person talks. Yes, it's a wise answer, but that is, people are using it as a tool too much to rely on. And I think that it should be used as a thesaurus that talks and breathes digitally. It's how to work with it and how to develop a conversation with AI. And I find that highly successful. It finds words I don't even know, which leads me down this path of looking them up. And it's a learning experience between me and a computer. I use it for lots of things, applications for grants, for my personal work, and just to help artists learn how to use it to their benefit. Copyright.
Can I pause you really quick? Do you mind sharing some of those sources that you use that you found beneficial?
Sure. I work through apps that are pretty much chat. It's the one that I've become comfortable with and familiar with. I have one on my phone. I think it's called AI Chat. That's sad. I should know that. But I use that mostly for image generation. So I use AI for two purposes. One for image generation and text creation, which brings us to the copyright question that you asked. And whether it be social media or whether it's AI work, where is the copyright? Where is the line? How is it protected? That's a question we're going to be moving down the line and into the future continuously. I'm not a lawyer. I'm not a copyright lawyer. Everybody find one, talk to them. But yeah, again, it's the frontier. It's just like still as a performance artist, how do we copyright that? And dance is also another. I've had this conversation, and now AI is just another facet of where's the copyright line? What do you own, basically?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's just another level of complexity. Yeah, as we continue to move forward, and so many helpful innovations are being created, but then also how does that impact us as artists, our society? And I think it's exciting, but it's definitely a conversation I'm really interested in continuing to have. Especially like you said, I think it's inevitable that AI is going to be, or it already is really, it's already a part of our now, and it's going to continue to be a part of our lives. So how can we set up practices and frameworks to protect our artists and protect our communities? Because I think that from what I see and from what I've garnered from so many conversations on this podcast is that, yes, these tools can be amazing and are really exciting, but it also tends to create more responsibility, more challenges for the individual artists and the smaller organizations who are already stretched so thin and have limited resources. So I hope that I can continue to have conversations with people like you to maybe provide resources or outlets so we can protect ourselves as we move forward.
It's going to be a continued conversation. It's like something that changes daily, and staying on top of the resources, like you said, and staying on top of the legal ramifications is something we really need to pay attention to.
I want to talk a little bit more about your experience creating the intersection between art, technology, and community. It seems like your community is really central to the work you do, whether it's as an artist, as a curator, a producer. And so what do you think are the components of this successful intersection of art, technology, and community?
Again, I lean towards make sure you're telling the whole story. And that means, as far as community goes, when it's the artists of tomorrow, don't silo yourself. It's a great way. Technology is a great way to tell the story of so many and create a grander picture. And that's because we can work with an artist that's in Finland. We can work with an artist that's in New York. We can work with an artist that's in Oklahoma or even Denton. It's like technology has allowed us to move at a quicker pace. And it's a lot easier to transfer a file than it is to ship a crate. So even just moving the work has created an ease to the process. Community is, like I said, people have been learning technology for years. They're consuming it on a regular basis. It's approachable and it's becoming more approachable. And that's an easy way to reach a deeper audience from a community standpoint. And then you can bring it and teach and give back to the community with technology, whether it be just from the projection of a film work or it's a 3D sculpture. It's in talk to the artists, to the community about how things are made. And so everything from grand scale to one-on-one, it's approachable and creates a level of access that will continue to expand.
Our tagline here at No Box Dance is say no to the box. And I'm wondering, how do you say no to the box?
By trying to never use a box. One of the things that I love about the work that I get to the pleasure of exhibiting, both of other artists and of myself, is that we literally go outside, like physically, and make site-specific work. There's something beautiful about using nature as a canvas for movement and different surfaces that are non-traditional. Just being outside, it becomes part of the story, and it makes us all reach for a different sense within the work itself. For a projection, it's not a square wall. It's not part of a box. It's going to be some weird aspect ratio that the artist gets to create something that is specifically, that size, which is fun for some artists. And it's a challenge for some of us. For myself, there's a lot of things that can go wrong outside the box, and I love it and live for it. There's like an unpredictable space is a beautiful thing to continuously create in. It keeps the curiosity of a kid in your heart moving.
Flash 4.
We have our final segment, which is our Flash 4, where we ask all our guests to answer 4 questions in a flash. So as fast as possible.
Okay.
Are you ready?
I've had enough coffee. I think I can handle this.
Okay, great. Here we go. If you had to recommend a resource to our audience, what would it be?
It's actually Instagram.
What was the first dance you saw?
It was at the Wang Center, I think, in Boston, and I saw the Nutcracker for the first time, ballet.
Do you think social media has a positive influence on the dance world, yes or no?
I do.
What is your favorite social media platform?
Again, I'm going to answer that 2 ways. Facebook for invitations and Instagram for increasing knowledge.
Thank you so much, Erica. I really enjoyed our conversation today. I wasn't expecting to talk so much about, but I think it was a really important topic, and I'm really glad that you shared your thoughts about the future of arts and technology. And I also just want to thank you for all the advocacy work that you've done for North Texas. As I was telling you before the recording, I feel like I've known about the work you do, and I've been like in orbit around everything that you do for our community here. And so it's really meaningful to just sit down and take some time to talk with you one-on-one. So I really appreciate you being on our show, and I know our listeners are going to love this episode.
I appreciate being here. Thank you for your words. And everybody just develop a no problem. The community is there for you to talk to and work with. Just don't do it too much.
Well, Erica, how can our listeners stay connected with you and all the wonderful work that you're doing?
Yeah, if you can spell my last name, you can find me. It's ericafelicella.com. Make sure you look up Aurora on both Instagram, LinkedIn, and it's Dallas Aurora. Yeah, we'll start there. The list could be longer, but that's a good starting point.
Thanks, Erica. And before you go, is there anything that you want to leave our listeners with? Maybe a thought or piece of advice?
Sure. Let fear be the motivator, not the obstacle. Fear can make you look at a wall in a way that you've never seen before. And all you have to do is be creative about getting around it, because every wall is climbable.
Thanks again, Erica. Dance Behind the Screen podcast is produced by No Box Dance, an art service organization that creates, collaborates, and discusses art with artists and the public. Dance Behind the Screen podcast is co-hosted by Azaria Hogans, Raina Mondragon, Martheya Nygaard, and Yejin Choi, with sound designed by Daniel Rosas.
Thanks for taking your time to tune into Dance Behind the Screen, a bi-monthly interview series where we go behind the screen to question process, product, and social media. Be sure to follow us on social media at KNOW Box Dance. See you next time, and don't forget to say no to the box.